Yes, sir.
Namaskar. Good evening. Welcome you all on 16th day of ICR National Institute of Agricultural Economics and Policy Research webinar series on quantitative method for social sciences. Today we will learn about artificial intelligence, where we will particularly focus on decision tree. Sorry for this delay of 7 minutes. We are still getting problem while connecting to Facebook. We are trying to resolve that problem. Till then we can start on our webinar on Zoom. Now I request my co-host Dr. Abhimanyu to introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Vinayak Nika. Good evening to all. For today's lecture, we have with us Dr. Rajni Jain. She is Principal Scientist at ICR National Institute of Agricultural Economics and Policy Research, New Delhi. Dr. Jain is mainly working in the area of data mining techniques and decision support system for agriculture. She has also worked on crop planning and total factor productivity in agriculture. Now I request Jain Madam to start her lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Vinayak. Thank you, Dr. Abhimanyu. Thanks for introducing the topic. I would just share my screen to start today's this thing. I hope my screen is visible to all.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. Yeah. So as Dr. Vinayak has told, today's topic is artificial intelligence decision trees. Basically, you have been learning artificial intelligence since the beginning of this lecture series. Today, we are focusing on one special aspect of it, decision tree. In this particular session, after knowing a bit on AI, we will be mainly focusing on like different types of decision trees, what we call decision trees and how to create decision trees. And we would also be building the decision trees using R. And if time permits, I will show you R being a little programming language, maybe a little tough for the new beginners. I will also show one graphic user interface, which is a data mining software. So I would try to make trees using that also, which is easy for the beginners. So basically, you know, all of you are aware of this right now. All automobile companies, they are focusing on this driverless cars. So driverless car is an example of AI, like high level of AI being used. Each and every aspect of this car is based on AI. You will see here sensors are there in the front lights and just before the wheels, and at the back also, at the top also it is connected with satellites. So everywhere it will be having some sensors, like on the roof of it and inside also. So that's why with the help of all these sensors, the car is able to see at the back, at the front, its position. It is able to find out its routes and then decide which route to follow. So you must have heard about the news of like Google testing their driverless cars. They have been successful to some extent, but still they found that there are certain problems which needs to be resolved. So I think that explains like what is the highest level of AI that is possible. So basically, right now, so far what we are having is the product of human intelligence, basically in our civilization. So we cannot predict what we might achieve when this intelligence is magnified by the tools that AI may provide. A few years back, no one would have imagined that there would be cars which will be driverless. So, but now our focus should be like using AI, we should be able to eradicate wars, we should be able to eradicate disease. All of us are suffering from this coronavirus and the COVID disease right now. So AI also is trying to help and solve the problems using data. and of course poverty should be high on anyone's list. So success in creating AI, like if actually we are able to have full artificial intelligence just like human intelligence, that will be the biggest event in the human history, but it also might be the last. So these are the words of the great Stephen Hawking. So like when we are using AI, then we should also be cautious. So basically then like in one of this webinar series, in one of the beginning lectures, you were introduced to this machine learning also. So people think like this is a fancy name, and so it is nothing but it is simply a field of study where the computers have the ability to learn without being programmed. Right now, like we are having various programs, we use them, we get the output. So but when we are having the output without using any explicit programs means we are not having the solution of the problem in hand. So we are, of course, it will not be possible without programming, but it is not explicitly programmed for the solution problem which is in hand. So then we call it a machine learning. So, and this is of course done with the help of algorithms. And these algorithms, their job is to make the predictions out of the data. So this machine learning has been there since 80s, 90s, but suddenly they have made more popular. They have become popular. Now it has become buzzword, this machine learning. So the reason is now we are rich in not only data, but also in computational power. So that is one thing which is now making the machine learning popular. So like this cartoon tells that when a user takes a photo, that app should check whether they are in national park. So this is an example of what? It is AI. So the inbuilt software, they will check like what is the location. You know now the power of GPS. All of we are using this Arogya Setu. So this Arogya Setu based on AI only. It is making use of many multiple algorithms, sensors, and many things to do this. So another this particular picture makes you clear about like what is the difference between the programming which you have been used to and machine learning programming. You know, right now the programming, what we do, let's say payroll, you know, estimating, okay, what will be the pay for a particular person, or what will be the bill of a person, how much tax one has to pay. So here all of us should have a program. You calculate your income tax, you have your data, you have your program, you make use of your computer and get your output. So this is the traditional programming. Here we are making use of traditional programs. But what happens in machine learning? In machine learning, you have the problem in hand. So problem in hand means you have the data also, and you have the kind of output which we are interested in. And then we make use of computer, and this computer will give us some program which we may also call a model. So that model can, so computer will learn this model or the program on the basis of the data only, and then that model is used for further predictions. So that is what machine learning is. So now, when we say machine learning or learning, there are many types of, in fact, there are lakhs of algorithms available for machine learning. So it is difficult to even talk about them. But major categories of learning are three. One is association rules, where we do market basket analysis. In market basket analysis means like it is mainly used in analysis in supermarkets and all, where they make use of AI to find out what kind of customers buy what thing, and if a person is buying one item, then what is the probability that this person will buy the item B also. So they do such kind of analysis. So they associate one item with the other, and they try to arrange their shelves according to that. This can also be useful in agriculture also. Okay, if a particular farmer is making use of one particular input, then what is the probability that it will use the other input if he is adopting this technology? Then what other technologies is likely to be adopted. So such kind of things are called association rules. So association rule is a separate topic, so we are not going to discuss that. Then another is classification, which is widely used in our daily life. We keep on categorizing things. There are a number of machine learning algorithms for classification. Classification further has two categories. One is supervised learning, another is unsupervised. You have talked about some of these learnings in previous webinar lectures. So basically, like yesterday we had this clustering, which is an unsupervised learning. This is also part of machine learning. And then we also had ANN, artificial neural network. We saw various kinds of neural network. We also had different kinds of regression. So they are also part of machine learning, because there also we are learning the model from the data. Then today, then naive-based classifiers, support vector machines, k-nearest neighbors. So these are some other popular classification techniques, but there are many of them. We will be discussing very primitive forms of the decision tree. Decision tree also, number of variants, number of algorithms are there, number of softwares are there. Of course, we cannot talk about all of them, but this particular webinar will give you fairly a good insight on how to start using decision tree, how to make decision tree, when to use decision tree. Then the third kind of learning, machine learning, is reinforcement learning, which is trial and error learning. Here we use feedback from our own actions. So like, chess program. So they are made, besides other things, using reinforcement learning. So they are learning the things from their opponent also. So that is reinforcement learning. So again, that is a big topic, big theory and things. So we are not going to discuss that further. Our topic today will be basically one particular algorithm of AI, that is decision tree. So as you are already aware of, this is basically supervised and unsupervised. I have talked about. In supervised, the data is labeled. Means for some of the data, we know that, okay, what is the category of this data? So that this labeled data help us in knowing our program or the model, which can be used for future results or future predictions. And another in unsupervised learning, like yesterday you have listened to this clustering. So here we do not have the label. So we just have the data. We try to make it, we try to arrange it into some categories in such a way that within the category, the data points or the observations, they are more similar, and outside the categories, these data points, they are different. So that's how here even number of classes, number of categories are also not known. So this is called unsupervised learning. So we will discuss these trees. Basically, tree, as the name suggests, it is a hierarchical structure. Tree is a hierarchical structure. So here in this hierarchical structure, our target is to classify the example. And here in this technique, data is continuously split based on certain parameter. So what is that parameter or feature, that we will talk about. And if we talk about main components in a tree, so tree will have nodes, tree will have branches, tree will have leaf. Let's see this. This is an example of a tree. Here, these are called the nodes. These are the nodes. Basically, node means where we talk about some question. So we, on the basis of question's answer, we will have the branches. For example, this tree is representing summary of finding out whether a person is fit or not. Just we want to predict whether the person will be fit or not. So here it starts with age. So it asks what is the age. If age is less than 30, then we ask whether the person is eating lots of pizzas. So if he says yes, then we say unfit. If says no, it is fit. Then If age is not less than 30, then they ask whether exercise is in the morning. If yes, then even person with more age can be fit. So this is simply one decision tree. But question today is how to build this decision tree. So these, of course, decision trees can be built based on one's intelligence, person knows, expert knows, like, okay, what should be the main thing, doctors knows. But here in artificial intelligence, we make such kind of trees only from the data. We give the data, then decision tree algorithms are there. They will help us to build such kind of trees. So here, as I told you, three components. So basically these questions, these are the nodes, then these edges or branches, and finally the class variables, where they are terminal nodes, we call them. These are called the leaves of the tree. You can say that these are upside down trees, because in our real life, our plant trees, their root is at the bottom and leaves at the top. Here in decision trees, roots are at the top and leaves are at the bottom. So these are the upside down trees basically. Let's take one example, and its tree also. This example we will also be making use of in building the tree. So let's say this example is a famous example which was used by Professor Ross Quinlan from Australia when he gave one famous algorithm for making the decision trees from the data. So that's why when we are describing decision trees, this particular example is mostly used. So this example is about the 14 observations, day 1 to day 14, and it is based on 4 predicting variables and one a classification or class variable. So our job is to know whether the game or the match of tennis will be played on that day or not. So we have the data of the past 14 days, which says about some weather parameters, outlook, what is the outlook, which has 3 kinds of values: sunny, overcast, and rain. What is the temperature, hot, mild, and cool. Humidity could be high and normal. Wind could be weak or strong. And then we are deciding whether play will be there or not. So this is the past data. Job is to make a summary tree such that we can predict any day whether match will be played or not. So when this data set, it was used to make the tree, then this is the tree which was made by the algorithm which was given by Ross Quinlan. Here it says that our root node for this tree, it should be outlook. Outlook is the root node. Root node means the beginning node. The first question which we are going to ask, the next example which we want to classify. So it says in root node, we will take outlook. You see, outlook is one of the variable. So we will make use of outlook. In outlook, we have as such 5 yes, 9 yes, and 5 no. You see, if you count these yes, they are 9 yes and 5 no's. So in Outlook, you know, Outlook has 3 kinds of values: sunny, overcast, and rain. So there will be 3 branches: sunny, overcast, and rain. What we observe is when Outlook was sunny, there were 2 cases, 2 days where match was there, 3 days where match was not there. When Outlook was overcast, there were 4 cases in the data where match were there, but there was none of the case where match was not there. So on the basis of data, this algorithm will say, yes, when overcast is yes, then the game will be there and it terminates here. It becomes the leaf here. Similarly, when outlook is rain, we again find that 3 yes and 2 no. So we cannot predict anything in these 2 branches. So next we have to check for the other variables. So what other variables are there? We have temperature, humidity, and wind. Of course, question is which one to pick. So here it is picked humidity. Why this humidity? That I will tell you. So humidity had two branches. Humidity were of two types, high and normal. So we again have two branches out of this, high and normal. So for high, again we have, when humidity was high, the match was not played. So there were zero cases for yes and two cases for no. So we have made it a leaf node because we can correctly predict in this particular case. When humidity was normal, then there were two cases of yes and one case of no. So here, of course, based on majority, it has given the decision yes, but there is also possibility that you go further. But sometimes we can, on the basis of majority, okay, majority of the cases yes, and similarly for the other leaf nodes. So this is how the tree is made. I hope like it is clear that how tree is made. Only problem is how to decide this node, which one will come where, which will be the first node. So that I will discuss in subsequent time. Another importance of this decision tree is that they can be easily converted to some kind of rules. You know, trees, it requires some expertise to understand the rule, tree. So like, you know, naive person, he cannot understand what this tree is meant for. So they can be easily translated into simple rules which everybody can understand, like this. Rule number 1, it says if outlook is equal to sunny and humidity is equal to high, then tennis play will not be there. Okay, so and how this rule has been made? This rule, like you start from the root node, you go to one of the leaf node and you will get one rule. For example, here, we start traversing from here. Outlook is sunny, humidity is high, then play is not there. Another rule, outlook is sunny, humidity is normal, then there will be play. Outlook is overcast, then there will be play. When outlook is rainy and wind is strong, then there is no play. So like that, we can make these rules. And these rules are easy to implement in expert systems, in automated systems. You have your washing machine. You know, washing machine, like it automatically stops when your clothes are clean. Why? Some rules are inbuilt into this. These rules are artificial intelligence based rules. So these rules can be made either by experts on their own intelligence or they can be made based on the data. Then there are various kinds of decision trees, but I am just having two categories here. And these two categories are further having many types of trees. So one is this classification tree where your decision variable or the class variable is categorical or discrete. Okay? These are the trees of yes, no type. For example, here, let's say in this particular data, this is your data, which is having three kinds of classes, red balls, then yellow triangles, and then black rhombus. So we want to classify them into classes on the basis of our algorithms, decision tree algorithm. So decision tree algorithm, what it will do at the first root node, it can classify. One is this node and the other is this node. You see, our data get reduced at every node. So here also one misclassification is there, but it can further be reduced based on further growing the tree. This is called growing the tree. So these are the categorical or classification tree. Another are the this regression tree where your predicted values, they are the continuous values. For example, price of house or price of a commodity, how long a patient is going to stay in the hospital, predicting his stay in advance. So if hospitals, they know at the desk that what is the expectation that this patient is going to stay in the hospital, they can charge the patient accordingly. And you know, they have some kind of inbuilt experience by which If you go for a particular disease, they will ask you for 4 days advance. If you go for the other, they will ask you 3 days. So that is the state. So that is intelligence, but that kind of intelligence can be learned by the trees also on the basis of the past data available in the hospital. So coming to this tree, uh, you will have some kind of data. Then this data will be divided into some kind of branches on the basis of the values of the data. Then this is further divided into many other categories. So basically we can say these decision trees, they are based on divide and conquer algorithm. Means you keep on dividing your original data into small subsets, and then again making use of the same algorithm again and again. So when we are using such kind of techniques, we call them recursive algorithms. So this is what we had done. Earlier also I have showed you this same thing. But here the idea is to introduce you to this recursion. Recursion means you are simply following the same methodology again and again. For example, what we have done here in the top part of the tree, that is, we are asking the question and we are making 2 branches. And within each branch, now your data gets splitted. So in one side, you will have those data points where the age is less than 30. On the other side, you will have those data points where the age is greater than 30. So if there were 100 cases, you may have 50-50 or you may have 80-20, whatever it is. So now other part of the tree, they are built using the same method. So you have a smaller data now, and this smaller data again is divided into branches on the basis of some other attribute or variable, and this way this process goes on. Here it is a very simple tree which we have shown based on only 2 variables, but it can be very complex tree also. So this process is called recursion, and the tree building process automatically stops when we have got to the leaf of the tree. So the same thing, I am trying to put this in the form of algorithm, which says if your data at any node, all cases are of one particular category, then you simply create another node which is called yes node, and you stop building that part of the tree. Similarly, if all the cases are negative, then you create a no node and you hold it. Otherwise, we have to repeat this process of building a tree. You select a feature. This feature will have some kind of values, like our temperature was having high and normal, humidity was having high, low and normal, like that. And you create a decision tree. Then again, you will partition that node and keep doing this step 1 again and again, so that you get the. Anyway, this is just for understanding, but when you are building tree, these concepts are inbuilt into our algorithm. So now one question which I left is how to decide which variable we should split on. That is an important question. So that is done on the basis of entropy or Gini coefficient basically. So entropy, first of all, we measure the entropy of the whole data set using this formula. This is called PI. PI is the proportion of the S means sample belonging to a particular class. For example, in our this famous example which we have taken, we have 9 yes and 5 no. So, and I here were the two classes. So we will take 9 upon 14 proportion of yes, then log of that proportion, proportion of no, log of that proportion. So using this way, we get the entropy of the whole data set. So entropy means randomness in your data. So we find that data is quite random. Like you cannot predict the values on the basis of majority. If your data is random, you cannot predict the values on the basis of majority. So you have to make use of some kind of algorithms for predicting the case. Then now this is the whole table which shows whether we have to go for constructing the tree or not. When this entropy becomes 0, in that case, that means tree building has to be stopped for that much sample of the data, because now there is no disorder or no randomness in the data. Data will be either all positive cases or all negative cases. So now we know how to have leaf, we know how to measure the entropy of the data set. So next is deciding the variable. So for deciding the variable, we make use of a concept called information gain. So A is the variable in question. So if my data has 4 variables, out of which I have to decide which variable I should have the split, which variable should be the node question, then we make use of this formula. We take the entropy of the whole table and then we take the entropy of the partition table. Okay, so this SV is our subset. For example, for humidity, we have high and low. So for high, how many data points? And for low, how many data points? So using that, we can make this. So they will be available in research papers also, these formulas, or any textbook also. So this is an example. For example, I am trying to find out the gain in the table as is our sample if I make use of the information which is available in the wind variable. So in wind variable, we have, when wind was weak, we have 2 values. You see. In wind variable, we have 2 values, weak and strong. So for weak also, we have certain data no, weak no, but and weak yes also is there. So they, even for wind is equal to weak, there is randomness in the table. We cannot say if wind is weak, then match will be there. If wind is not weak, strong, then match will not be there. So we cannot say like this. So we need to find out that, okay, wind is still having randomness. Can I have some kind of gain if I make use of wind variable? So it says that using wind, using the formula I have just told, very simple to implement, we will have gain of 0.048. And now, similarly, we will calculate this kind of gain for all the variables, for outlook, for humidity, temperature, every variable we will call. And the variable which gives this value as the highest value, that will be the selected for the splitting. So like this is regarding the splitting criteria. So if I just repeat what I have discussed so far before moving further, I have told you about what exactly is decision trees and how it looks like, and what is the root node, what is the leaf node, what are the branches of the tree, and how to decide the questions for each of the node. Now, having this idea, next question is now, like as we told in the beginning, it's learning from the data. So what we will be having with us is only this data set. So how we make use of this data set for predicting the future values. So the first thing we have to do is, there are many other methods also, but I am here giving the simple one, which is called holdout estimation for making the tree. So we make use of this data set and we divide this data set into 2 parts. One part is for testing purpose and another part is for making the model, or as I told in the beginning, that it make use of data set, it make use of computer and build the model. So this part we make use of training model, we call it model on the training data. So that model is built, and then we have to, of course, we would like to evaluate how good is the model. Then for that we make use of test. data. So test data is not used at all while we are making the model. So that's why if we make use of only training data set for giving us the performance of my model, then that will be good. But that may be because of some kind of overfitting. So this using this procedure is must if we have to actually use the tree for predicting the cases or whatever is the classes we will like to predict. So this method is also called hold out method. Why? Because we are holding this test data not to be used for the training purpose or building the model. Then sometimes, one disadvantage of this method is, let's say you have 5,000 observations. So in 5,000 observations, you make use of 4,000 observations for building the model and 1,000 observations for testing your model. So in that case, it looks okay, fine. We still have 4,000 cases for training the model. Suppose you have your data set of only 100 cases. So if you again divide it into two parts, then some of the data you are losing, which cannot be used for training purpose. So data set may become insufficient in that particular case. So to solve such kind of problems, sometimes, because our job will be to make use of our available data for the full training. So that's why there is another method which is called cross validation. Some of you must have heard about this. In cross validation, what we do is we make folds of the data. So let's say if I say I want to make 5 folds, so then we will have 5 folds of the data. So if your data has 100 cases, then each fold will have only 25 cases. So in this case, what we will do is we take one fold as the test case and the remaining folds as the training case. Then we will not run this model once. We will again run this model, and this time we will make use of the other 25 for testing and the remaining as the training. Then third time again we run it, and this time we will have the third fold as the testing and the remaining as the training. So like that we are having this, if we are having 5 folds, then we will be running our algorithm 5 times, and 5 times, that means we will be having 5 different training sets, 5 different test sets. And the beauty of this particular design is that each of your data point has been used at least once for training purpose, and each of the data point has been used at least once for the test purpose. And that means if we had 100 cases, all 100 cases have been used for building the model also, and at the same time we have also preserved that statement that test data should not be used for training, because each iteration we had the test set separate from the training set. So when we are estimating the final accuracy of a decision tree, in cross validation, then we take averages of each of these folds. So this is regarding the cross validation. Then evaluation is one of the important mechanism to know the performance of a model. So for this purpose, one table kind of structure which is used to describe the performance of any classification model, that is called confusion matrix. So confusion matrix, the aim is not to confuse but to remove the confusion. So in this confusion matrix, what we do is basically like I am just describing here for 2 class problem. Like if your data has 2 categories only, let's say in my data I had actually 2 kinds of classes. One is called true and the other is false. That means when the match is played, when the match is not played. So these are the actual values in the data, because we have our training data set had labels. This is a supervised learning technique where labels are known to us. And then we will have the predicted value also from our model. So then we can have some numbers here. Let's say these numbers are A, B, C, D. These numbers are, A is called true positive. So that means A number of cases are actually true. They were labeled true, and model has also predicted them as true. So this is also called true positives. Then B is called false positive, means actually there was no match, or they were negative, or they were false, but the model has predicted them positive. So this is a kind of error. It is also called type 1 error, basically. So this is also called, given the name false positive in confusion metric. Many of you must have heard of this type 1 and type 2 error. Then comes C. C is false negative. It means model has predicted it negative, but actually it was true. That means this prediction is false. So it is like the person is actually having a disease, let's say a deadly disease, cancer, and some kind of test, a laboratory test has predicted it negative. So these are the false negative cases. Such kind of errors are called type 2 errors. Then these are the true negative cases where actually it was false, model has predicted it also negative. So these are the true negative. So basically why I am telling this, true positive this, these values, they are used for finding out the performance parameters of these models in machine learning. One is accuracy, which all of you have heard about. This accuracy is nothing but these diagonal elements which are predicted correctly, A plus D divided by all your cases, A plus B plus C plus D. Then we have precision. Precision is nothing but positive predicted value. That means in our prediction, how many are correct predictions of the positive cases. So it is nothing but TP upon TP plus FP. That means A upon A plus B. Then we have negative predicted value. Negative predicted value is the negative cases that were correctly identified. So as you can see, these are the true negatives. So D. So it is D upon C plus D. Out of the total negatively predicted values, C plus D, model predicted C plus D values as negative, but out of which D were correct. So it is D upon C plus D. Then sensitivity or recall. Sensitivity or recall is this. TP upon TP plus Fn, or A upon A plus C. And then another is specificity. So the proportion of actual negative cases which are correctly identified. So actually you have B plus D as the negative cases, so it comes in the denominator, and you have correctly classified D. So you have. So depending upon the problem, so which of these measures are of interest, which of these cells are of interest in your values, we try to maximize or minimize those kind of things. So this is confusion matrix, which is used for evaluating the decision tree. Then finally, one simple principle, which is also called Occam's razor. So this principle simply says that when you are having models, any machine learning model, you have to choose the model which is simple. So normally complex models should not be used. Any simple model that gives high accuracy should be chosen. He is like one cartoon I got, so I thought of giving you. Let's say one tree has fallen down. So two persons, they're talking, and it says, why did this tree fell down? So one simple person says it is because of wind. That is the simplest explanation. But another complex explanation could be that there were two meteoroids. One meteoroid hit the tree and make it fall. Then it hit the other meteoroid and obliterated its evidence of existence. So obviously, 99% or 99.9% of the time, you will find this explanation is simpler. So same holds for the data also. So this is all, there could be more theory also, but I try to avoid it. Now we will go for some kind of practical aspects of decision tree. So first I will show you using R, then I will show you using a graphic user interface, a software which is widely used for machine learning, that I will show you, which does not require programming in R also. But since you are accustomed to using R for many of your techniques right from the beginning in this particular webinar series, so I tried to have some decision trees making using R also. So basically here I have listed some of the libraries in R which are used. We will be making use of these three libraries for making R. But for complex tasks, as I told you, number of algorithms are there. One can search for the other libraries and use them. So uh, like this is the simple tree, very simple, like where all complexities have been removed. As I told you, two simple libraries can make you the decision tree in R. One is this R part, means partitioning library for R. Another is because tree is a graphical structure, so you would also require some kind of plotting. So if you want to just make use of the tree for the prediction, you can even avoid this plot. You just, okay, you make the tree using RPAD and you use it for prediction. You don't want to see that tree. But if you want to see the tree, you make use of this plot also. So now this simple one I will first explain, then we go to R. Here what we are having is, we are having a data set, let's say, and from that data we take a sample. As I told you that the simplest way of making a tree is you hold out some of the data for the test. So we take our 75% of that, nearly 75, out of 150 cases of the data, we take 100 cases in our sample, and that sample is denoted by S. This particular code is for iris data, because all of you are aware of this iris data set. Then we have another variable. We say this is the training set of iris, and training set of iris is nothing but S. Okay, and using all the variables. And test set of iris is nothing but we remove the S sample data from the original iris data set. So we minus the S and we get the test data. I hope this is quite clear to follow. And then we are making the tree using one simple command in this R, that is R part, partitioning. So basically tree construction is nothing but partitioning. So here what does it mean? It says partitioning is done. This is the variable which we want to predict. Here it is species. You know that in iris we have 3 species of flowers. So we want to know on the basis of our independent variables which species this particular flower belongs to. And this dot means we are making use of all variables for prediction. So we are not hiding any variable. Sometimes it might be possible that in the data which is given to you, some of the variables have more missing values. You may not like to use the entire set of variables for building the tree. In that case here, instead of dot, you can even specify your variable names. So this part of this function is nothing but specifying the variables. First is dependent variable, species, and then independent variable. Then we specify the data. Our data is, which data we are making use of for building the tree? Iris underscore train, because this is the sample data. And this method is classification method we are making use of. There are many other methods which will be available if we just see the structure of this particular function. But now this tree is made using this command. It is stored in the variable DTM. So Now we can plot this using rpart.plot function. This is the tree, the variable which is having tree, and we specify its type, and we give some, like, this is just making beautification of the displayed tree. So what kind of color and font we want, so that can be specified on. And then obviously, as I told you, we would like to know what is the performance of this tree. So we make use of the test set for the performance. So we simply say predict. So prediction is made using this model. Predict using this model DTM. Do the prediction for this data, iris test. And this is the classification type. So the variable is class variable. And then we just simply give our confusion matrix. We would like to have, okay, what are the prediction values? What are the actual values and what are the prediction values? So that is listed using the help of this. So obviously here we are not displaying the training set predictions. We are displaying the predictions of the test set, which were not available for training, using all the 5 variables. And P is the predicted value. So these are some advantages and disadvantages. So they are simple. Basically, they are easy to construct. They are fast in classifying, easy for interpretation, and their accuracy is good enough as compared to other techniques. And another important thing is unimportant features or variables, they are automatically deleted in this. Some disadvantages are overfitting is there, and this is decision tree making is biased towards splits which are having large number of values. So large number, like we have for humidity only 2 values, 2 levels, high and normal, but for temperature high, medium and low. So that means these trees, their algorithm is such that for 3 values, 3 levels, that feature has more chances of getting selected. And if there are changes in the training data, the tree will be changing. And if the trees are very large, then they will be difficult to construct the trees, to interpret the trees. Because till it is smaller, you can understand, okay, which node, which value. These are some applications. So you can, like all classification problems, they can be worked with decision trees in agriculture also. Disease identification, willingness to pay. What are the characteristics of the people who would like to pay for some service, insurance or some other service, or predicting the beneficiaries of certain scheme. So what are the features? If we can summarize the data using simple trees. So these are trees. Now we go to our this thing. I will show you R. Since you are conversant with R, how to start and all. So just to save some time, I have this R Studio running on my system. I will be demonstrating R using 3 examples. So first of all, we make use of this iris itself, which I have shown you in my example. So here you will find some extra commands also, but they are just to help you in the process of building the decision tree. So let's go to each command one by one. Before we go further, let me tell you that this iris, as you must be knowing, it is the inbuilt data set which is available in R for practice purpose. So that's why I am not reading or loading this data into the question. So my first example is making the life simple by using this iris. So iris is already available, whether it is available or not in your machine. If you simply write iris and you run it, you will find this data here. You see, as I told you, it has 4 variables. as the independent variables. And fifth is the species of the flower that we would like to predict. So species is, there are three species: Setosa, versicolor, and virginica. And then the four variables, since it's a flower, components, two important components of the flower are sepal and petal. So sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. These are the four variables, and their width is given, their length is given in the data set. Then we come to, let's say you would like to know what is the dimension, how many rows. Because if it is a very big data set, you will not be able to view it properly. You can run this command and you will know that this iris data set, it has 150 rows and 5 variables. Out of 5, one is the class variable. Then you can also know the structure of iris, so which simply tells you columns. If it is having 20, 30 columns, it will not be visible on the screen. So instead of scrolling, you can see the structure of the data set. So it says sepal length is a numeric variable, and first 10 observations are also given for that. Sepal width, these are the observations. Petal length, petal width, and then species, it says it is a factor variable, 3 levels, Setosa, versicolor, and one is virginica, which is not shown. So class variable, it is showing 3 values. Then, so this names is also, you will get only column names. So n rows is another command, n column is another command, which gives you rows and columns. Simply you run it. So right now you know this, but when you do some sampling, then you would again like to know how many rows, how many columns. So that times these commands are handy. So now we make use of sampling. So for sampling, you can set the seed. As you know, when we do random sampling, then we have to have some random seed. If we don't make use of seed, then every time the sampling will be random and you will not be able to get the same result for display purpose. So we decide the seed in advance. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the seed used. So you can do some kind of randomness in your listing. Because if you don't make use of random and data set is just divided like this, then maybe first 100 cases will have only two species because they are in the sequence, and the next 50 they will be in the test set. So obviously you don't have the test cases in your sample data, your predictions will have more chances of being wrong. Then you have this training data defined. So we have taken here 75% of data. So if I run this, so my sampling has been done. You can see there, it says simple command sample. Sampling has to be done from the data starting from 1 to number of rows in the iris data. Size of the sample is nothing but 75% of the number of rows in the iris data. And replacement is false, means this sampling is without replacement. When we do some kind of bagging, then we have this sampling with replacement. When our data sets are small, then we can as well use this. So these are the usual conventional things which I am not touching. Then now you would like to see whether my training data has all species presented or not. So you run it. So you will see here.
Ma'am, it is possible to zoom this command so that it will be more visible to participants.
Yes. I will try to zoom it. Which option is there? Can you tell me which option can be used for zooming here?
I think first you are doing, ma'am, that
First view only.
here zoom in.
Zoom. Zoom in. Yeah. So I think it is little more visible. I can
Yes,
even
yes,
make it.
it is okay now.
Okay. So uh, right, because some people may be viewing in mobile, so it might be. Okay. So now we have this training listed here. So it is simply giving me the indices. I mean the observation numbers. So 142 case number 51, 58. So you see it is all random. Random cases have been taken in the training data. That is what is our aim. So it is not sequence data. So that means my training data will possibly have all kinds of species. Now I have a variable. I just define one variable for this. I say that train data, this train from this is assign a name iris train. And when I subtract this training samples, these are the IDs only, IDs of the cases. So these cases, they are taken in iris train. And when I subtract this training data from the iris, then I get the test data. And we can even display this train and test. So I run this for just time saving. I run these 4 commands together. And here also you can see this iris test is having 37 observations now, and iris train is having 113 observations. So now, as I told you, holdout method, the first thing is we divide the data into 2 sets, training and testing. Now we go further, and we have this dimension, like we can explicitly see in the result also, even our environment also will show you. I run it and you see the same thing here. So then these are the simple data handling kind of thing. You can even have some kind of plotting of the variables to have more idea on what this data is. Then we come to the libraries and packages which are used here. So one is this R part and another is this plot. If we want to plot this, I can run both of them together. So these are the only warning messages, but the packages are successfully installed. So now only 2 major commands are left, as I told you. Here, this is R part, means partitioning in R, using the variable class variable species, and this training data and classification method. So that means now you see this tree building algorithm is not shown the test data which I have separated here. So model is built only using this. So when I will have my accuracy available with me, that accuracy on the model will be on the test data, not on the training data. So then I run it. So as a result, right now model has been built in the variable DTM, but it is not visible unless I plot it. I see the graph. So for plotting, normal R functions are also there, but they do not give us that much good plot. You can even just, if you run DTM, it gives you that tree in the text form. Okay, it shows the text form of the tree. That root node is there. That root node you have 113 examples, out of which 75 examples are of Setosa, and other classes have the other example. So that means quite a lot of randomness is there in my data. But with the help of my other variables, we are trying to resolve this randomness and we are trying to have good accuracy. So now I plot it using the normal. So one is this plot will simply draw the tree, and text will also write below the tree some values. Let me run them one by one. You see, we have the tree right now, but no text is there. So if I run it, you will have text also. So the text is also there. So maybe if I, like this is because of such problems only, what we do is we have like the display is not that good. So the same tree, if we draw using this libraries plot function, so two functions can be used. You see, so here we have the beautiful tree because this particular is for this partitioning algorithm itself. So it says at the root node we have this Setosa first tree, first species having 34% cases, second species having 34% cases, third species having 33% cases. So this data get divided with petal length. If petal length is yes, then we have 34, all 34% of the cases classified as Setosa. But if petal length is not less than 2.5, then our data, this shows the data has 66% now. 34% cases have gone there, 66% cases are left, where we have 51% versicolor species and 49% other species. So there is a need for further split. The split is done by petal width. So petal width less than 1.8, then we have 35% of the cases as versicolor. But this data has 5% error also here. And Virginica, 31% cases. So this error can also be further reduced if we go for further split on basis of sepal length and sepal width. But like it is, we need to define how much error, how do we trade off between simplicity and accuracy. So that requires a lot of learning and going deeply into the tree. But idea is to sensitize on this tree. So then next is like you would like to know the predicted values. Okay, so predicted values, you can see no one is stopping us to have predicted values on the training set also. Okay, this tree, if we try to predict the values of the training data itself, we can have that also. But I avoid that because of time, this thing. I simply predict the values on test data. Commands are same, only thing is here instead of test we can make use of train. So I will say predicted values on the test set, give me the predicted values. For this the function is predict. We make use of the model which we have learned, DTM. This tree has been named as DTM. This data set we have already hold separately, and this is a classification. So I simply predict, and the second command is predicting the, displaying the values. So I run two of them together so that you can see. You see, the first command has predicted, but the second command has shown me the table. That case number 8. So test case, how many values were there in the test case? So predicted value in the test case there were 37 observations. So these are all 37 observations. It is giving us the predicted values. So if we want to know that table of the predicted values as well as actual values, of course you would like to compare what are the actual values. So then you can make use of this table command of the iris set, and which is having 5 variables, and we are having this predicted values. We run this command. So we get this kind of confusion matrix. So here it is the predicted values. Here are the actual values. So it says when the actual value was Setosa, then 12 were predicted correctly. So out of your 37 observations, there were 12 Setosa and all are predicted correctly. There were 12 versicolor. these are because actual values, but out of them, one is predicted wrongly into the Virginica. There were 13 Virginica, out of them 10 are predicted correctly, but 3 are wrong. So this is confusion matrix. You can analyze this confusion matrix for any kind of your performance measures, which I told you on the basis of confusion matrix, accuracy, precision, recall, sensitivity, even ROC and other things can also be made, which I did not show because of the time constraint, and they are same as used in other classification techniques. So any of them can be made use of in this. So I think it's already 5:20. So I had some other examples, but I would, what I can do is I can show you, instead of running them separately, each command wise, I can run it complete, all the entire this thing together. So we get this tree, but you see this is a complex tree. You have to create some space for it. So then you might be visible. This is a bigger data set. This data set is an auto data set. Many of you, because these are standard data set which are available. So this data set is available in this package, ISLR package. So this is car seats, this data set, car seats data set. This data set is here, the job is trying to predict whether the person's, what is the sale prediction of the car seats, whether the sale will be high or low in a particular region. So that is what the prediction is based on. Idea is not to know here, because this is demonstration of how trees are built. When you will have your own data set, you will have some data insights also with you. So I had this weather also, but this data. So this weather data also was there. Maybe it has weather. So this is another data, that is weather data. So here also, but like, if we run it, there is some problem. Anyway, I think two are enough. I have shown command wise. We can see it later on. If uh, should I take some time to demonstrate VECA also?
Yes, ma'am, that would be good. Just you can give idea how to do.
Okay. So as such, VECA is a free software. Good thing, just like this. If you simply give in Google VECA software download, or VECA software in data mining, or VECA software, anything you can give. So you will get this VECA. So, and here you can download this VECA. So this is the VECA software. It is available free, and tutorial and other things are also available for this, but I will not download it. So once it is there, then it is simple to start. So here you can start VECA. Once installed, like I have this VECA 3.8, this thing. So if I click on this bird, then VECA will be running. So once you run it, you will get such kind of interface in the beginning. So it is also a huge software, just like our all functionality, but this is mainly for machine learning tools and techniques. So in beginners, they should make use of this Explorer. So once you have this Explorer, so you have this thing, this window appearing there. I think I had another window here. So instead of this, I can close one of them. Okay, so same window is there. So initially, as you know, even in R, we are having this pre-processing of the data. So pre-processing, for pre-processing the data, you have to open the file first, data. So like in R, I made use of the already available data just to save some time. Here also I can make use of already available data. So I will open a file. So this data is already available. So since it is installed in C drive, so C drive program files, you go to Weka, or instead of this, you can have your own data also. But data, so some data sets are there. So here let me make use of that iris is also there. Okay, let me make use of iris only. So I had this iris data set, same data set is there. You see, it shows you the data also here. For each data points, it shows its statistics also. It shows how the data is distributed. So then, since it's again a very big software, I would just demonstrate tree making, how the tree looks like. So once the data is loaded, then you have to choose the algorithm. So you, as I told you, there are lakhs of algorithm. Even Weka doesn't have all, but it has quite a good number. So I make use of tree kind of algorithms. In tree also number of algorithms. You had to learn about them. So I make use of the famous algorithm, which is J48. And now for the purpose of performance measures, it gives, so I make use of percentage split. I can say I want to use 75% of splitting, as simple as this. So now it will make use of 75% of the data, and I say start, simple. So your tree is made. So you can see here, it is not possible for this thing, but you have to manage with this. So this is the tree which is made. This is the model here. Now, let me show you this model. You can view in proper tree format also. So like this, you see, the same tree has been built. So petal width 0.6 setosa, greater than 0.6, then again petal width. So depending upon which algorithm it is working on, the tree will be made. So now the thing is, what is the performance measure? So for that, it gives us the confusion matrix also here. Here is the confusion matrix. So these are classified as, means predicted values. Here these are the actual values, and it says iris, setosa all classified correctly, versicolor 11 to this. So because our partitions are different, and remember this is based on the test. Okay, so you, because you see here 35 cases are only there, 11, 11, 11, 33, 37 cases. Only 37 cases are there. So that means this confusion matrix is on this. If you say, no, no, I don't want, let me just know on training set, you can make another tree. So another tree is built. So now this tree has the entire data. All 150 cases are there. So accuracy is 98% on training. You see, some of the measures it gives on its own, performance measures. While in R, you need to do some programming, or you have to choose the functions. So right now, the tree which is displayed here, this is based on your training set. So that's why it is showing all cases. So 147 are correctly classified and 3 are misclassified. Then these are other statistics measures which can be used for comparing the performance. It is up to you which measure you are interested in. And this is the same tree but shown in text form. And in this tree, you see we had 89% accuracy. So I think reason is clear that why should we have more accuracy in the training data? Because that data was shown earlier, like we give to our students. When we give question paper, from the questions which we have already taught in the class, they will score high marks. But when we give some questions outside the class taught, then they will get less correct. So same is happening here. But actual measure of performance is based on test set only. So then cross validation and other things also. We can give our own supplied test set also. So that is there. So I think beyond this, it is not possible to demonstrate and continue this thing. So if I will try to stop here. If you have some questions, definitely we can take those questions. So I will stop sharing my screen. It is already stopped. Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Some questions are there under question and answer section. Those relevant you can pick up. We'll answer that.
Okay. So not many questions. One question is we have a NAHEP project on market intelligence, where one of the component is use of AI. How AI used in market intelligence for agriculture commodities. So you see the steps remains the same. You will have certain independent variables. You should know, for the commodities, if you want to predict price, let's say, then what are the variables which can be used for predicting the price? So then you have to have the data. You have to collect daily prices or weekly prices or whatever it is, and then you should have past data also. Obviously you have the past data, you have the predicted prices already labeled for them. So this is a case of numeric decision tree basically, because your predicted value is decision tree. Here you will have to make use of regression trees basically. So cart is one such tree, classification and regression trees. So that can be used. You can search cart trees. So if at all you want to make use of trees, you can make use of them. And algorithms, their implementations are available for cart, even in SPSS, SAS also, and obviously in R also. But you need to explore. So which one is there for this cart? Because the one which I have shown you is discrete variable, logistic like classification today. But I showed you in types of decision trees that there are regression trees also. So that can be used. Then other models which you have learned in your training, ANN you have learned, that can also be used. Logistics can also be used. You can compare many models. Then random forest can also be used. One is ensembles of methods. So where we are, taking things from all models. Like the students, they do in the class, they are cheating from all the students, and then they write the answer, or giving the assignments after seeing the assignments of all students. So you can make ensemble of all models and then use them. So there are many ways. So since it is your research project, you have to do some research for this thing. Uh, then there is another question similar to this. Problem is little different. Decision tree for forecasting of demand, supply, and price of agriculture. See, for decision tree, it hardly matters. You have to have your data set inbuilt properly. Then only you can make the tree for this thing. So another question is how to give training data set and test data set. So that I have shown you in both the this thing, even in R and even in Veka also. I have shown you Veka has programming interface also. From Python also Veka can be used using commands, but it's for the beginners. Graphic user interface is quite useful, so that can be used initially to learn to get hold of this, and you need to explore what all libraries and packages in R will be useful. There are a number of packages. I have given list in the presentation also. I think there is one more. Is there any proportion to distribute the data for training and testing? It depends on how big is your data. Let's say if your data is nowadays it is big data kind of era you are living in. So if your data is quite big, you can have even 10% of the data for training, because training will be faster, and 90% for testing, or you can have 50-50 also. But normally if yours is a small data set and you would like to utilize all of your data for training so that your future predictions are more accurate, then it will be better to have cross validation also, where you are using the entire data for training also as well as testing also. And normally in literature it is 2/3 1/3 ratio is suggested, now which seems to be good enough. 66% for training and 33% for testing. 75-25 is also okay, but 2/3 1/3 is supposed to be normal, which is suggested in literature. So any of other questions from Facebook or no?
Unfortunately, we could not connect with Facebook today, ma'am.
Okay,
We
okay,
will
okay.
upload this lecture again after once this
Okay,
lecture is
okay.
finished.
Recorded, right, right.
There was some
Okay,
problem, technical problem from Zoom only.
right,
Still, we
right.
are not able to connect with Facebook. I think most of questions also we have covered, ma'am. Ma'am, it was really nice and informative lecture on decision tree along with practical using R as well as Veka software. And those R code for the decision tree, they can email to us. We will send this code to them.
Fine.
Ma'am, we are receiving very good response from participants and we are really grateful to you for today's session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for patiently listening and giving me the opportunity. Thanks, Dr. Vinayak, Dr. Abhimanyu. Thanks to NIAP for giving the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And dear participants, video of these lectures are available on Facebook page of ICR, National Institute of Agriculture Economics and Policy Research. Tomorrow there is slight change in schedule of this webinar. Lecture on principal component analysis is got cancelled and we'll be learning a value chain analysis, particularly focusing on system dynamic approach for value chain analysis. And speaker will be Dr. Shailendra Kumar from ICRISAT, Hyderabad. Thank you very much for active participation and learning. We will meet tomorrow at 4 p.m. Till then, goodbye from me and my co-host Dr. Abhimanyu. Thank you.